Manchester United are moving mad.
Here we go. Fabrizio was actually just posted this and a deal for 45 million euros. Medical later this week. Deal done.
We may be getting closer to that. Midfield decision pending, coming soon. It is loading. It is buffering. It is whatever you want it to be right now as we enter into August this weekend. It looks like decision time is coming. This morning, as we were live.
Would you rather sign Francisco Conceição as a left winger or bring back Marcus Rashford? That's the question that I want to bring to you guys. The Manchester United and Michael Carrick want to sign the 23-year-old Portugal winger Francisco Conceição from Juventus. The tricky former Porto player who recently returned from the World Cup is valued around £43 million or 50 million euros. Now, guys, let me know straight away. For anybody, obviously, some people might not know who he is. I'll give you a little bit of details about him. But for those who do know who he is, what are your initial thoughts? Is that a sign that you want to see Manchester United make? Do you even think we should be looking for a left winger right now? Potentially, you might think we should look for a left back before that. We should look for a centre back before that. And obviously, we all know a midfielder is on the cards, and that's definitely a position that we need. But straight away, your thoughts, do you think we need a player like Conceição at Manchester United? Now, for those who don't know who he is, 23-year-old, like you said, Portuguese winger, plays for Juventus. He's a right winger, but he can kind of play both sides. Most wingers these days can play a little bit on both sides. And the kind of player profile that he is, he's more of a... If I was to compare him to two wingers, right, he's more like a... Don't take this literally, but he's more like a Rashford-style winger compared to a Koné-style winger, if that makes sense. You know, he's more like a out-and-out, direct, 1v1. He likes to dribble, likes to take on his man, that kind of winger, rather than a more left-sided 10 kind of winger, like a Morgan Rogers or a Koné. Different kind of profiles. But he likes it. Like, I call it an old school winger. You know, but a winger that likes to get on the ball, like I said, he's direct, 1v1, high work rate. And look, if he was to come to the club, he's still relatively young. He's 23 years old. Like I said, he plays for Juventus. I did actually see him at the World Cup whilst I was out there. And if I'm being honest, he didn't thrill me. He didn't make me think, oh wow, like. There were a few plays out there that I watched, and I remember me and Beth did a watch-along for the pre-season game against Rosenborg, and I was telling her about some of the plays that I watched, and I thought, wow, like in person, and I thought, wow, like that's a player that could be special in the future. He wasn't necessarily one of those players, and to be fair, he didn't play a lot. He had like little 45-minute spells, a couple of games, and then the last few games he barely played. So I don't think the World Cup necessarily put his name on the market and made people think that's a player that we need to go and sign. However, there has been a lot of positive talks around him. And like I said, Michael Carrick and Manchester United want to sign this winger. It is a position that they are looking at, and it is a position that they want to invest in. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people say, people are giving different names, to be fair. Some people saying Yildiz, some people saying Nusa, and also different positions. I mean, I'm seeing we should be signing a left back instead, we should be signing a centre back instead. Look, I think when it comes to the positions that I think United should be signing, obviously, I think midfielder has to be the priority. I get it. We have signed two midfielders already, Santos and Tielemans, and I think that's two good signings. But we're not done yet. No, I don't think we're done yet. I don't think that if we go into the start of the season and that's the only two midfielders that we signed, I think that's a little bit underwhelming considering the names that we were linked with and the amount of midfielders that we should have been signing. I think 3 is what we should be signing. So I definitely think midfielder is still a top priority for us, and it's got to be a good, not just a youngster, 20-year-old. And I think we should be getting a good midfielder that's a bit of experience as well. However, I think after midfield, that's where it opens up the conversation. And I initially said I think left wing should be our next choice. But now that I'm thinking more about it, and this is actually something I want to bring into the show a bit later on, a left back is super important for us. And a centre back is actually super important for us. And the reason why I say that is, when you look at the left wing position, we actually have two players that I feel confident in. I'm confident in Koné, in what he can do in that left-sided position. And also Dorgu. I know some people are still not fully convinced. And yes, he's definitely not the finished article, which he shouldn't be. He's still very young and he's only played a year or a year and a half for United. But I think Dorgu has actually shown, especially in the second half of last season, outside of him being injured, he's shown the potential that he has, and he's shown what he can do in the pitch. And even when I watched him in pre-season against Rosenborg, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the absolutely outstanding, but I thought, you know what, there's still a lot that we can do, and there's still a lot of potential in this play that we can utilise next season. So when you've got two players there that you're confident in playing, I think that position is not necessarily confirmed, but it is more concerned on a left-back position who, let's be honest, it is just Luke Shaw. It is just Luke Shaw, and I get it. Luke Shaw played 38 games last season. I'm still not fully convinced he'll be 100% fit for the whole season, if I'm being so honest. And look, I think Luke Shaw is a little bit underrated by some of the fan base, and some people they do think that he's not the greatest player and whatnot. I think he was actually pretty consistent last season. However, if you're going to tell me that Luke Shaw next season is going to play 40 to 50 games, I wouldn't put my money on it. I wouldn't put my money on it, and I wouldn't even want us to risk doing that just in case we go and burn him out and we make him play, all these different cup competitions, and then we get an injury and all of a sudden it's, oh, wait a minute, Luke Shaw's injured. We've sold Harry Amas for 6 million, which we're going to talk about. Who's next? We didn't go and sign a left back, so we don't have any more players. So I actually think a left back is a little bit more important to this club right now than a left winger is. And also, I think a centre back, Beth actually convinced me about this. A centre back is actually more important as well. And the reason why I say that is because let's actually take a look at our centre back options, right? You've got Lisandro Martinez, injury prone. In fact, he's injured right now. He's not only injury prone, but he's injured right now. So that's not a player that we can rely on 100% going into next season. De Ligt probably won't even come back to the end of this year, and even then, we don't know how he's going to return. A back injury can really set players off. It is not the best injury. Not that any injury is good, but in terms of recovery, it is not the easiest injury to recover from. So there's not really much trust I can say in De Ligt that he's going to be able to come back and play a full season. Then you've got two youngsters in Lenny Yoro and Aiden Heaven, both of them, 20 years old. Good centre-backs, by the way. Good players. I don't have anything bad to say about them, but they are both young. Do we want to put all the pressure on both of them to be the starting centre-back next season if our two main centre-backs are both injured? And then you've got Harry Maguire, who, in my opinion, I think it was good to keep him on for one more year, but he shouldn't be our starting centre-back. If we want to do anything substantial, we want to go and win trophies, we want to, at least, compete for a top 3 position in the league, I don't think Harry Maguire should be our starting centre-back. And when you look at it like that, we don't have a top centre-back that isn't injury-prone, which is terrible for United. That's terrible for any big club. And I think that's definitely a position that we should be looking at because we don't have that much confidence in the players that we already have. Now, do I think Rashford should come back to United? My short answer is no. That's my most simple answer. Now, I'll give you a little bit more detail into why I say that. It has nothing to do with ability. I think Rashford in the Premier League is still one of the best wingers. I'll be so honest. I think he can still get into most teams in the Premier League. Maybe, I think he'd get into Arsenal, if I'm being honest, on that left-hand side. I think he could get in, probably not City because of Doku, but I still think they're on a similar level. I think Doku's just a really good player. I highly rate Doku, so I think that's why I wouldn't put him in City team. Liverpool, I know they're looking for a left winger. The Barcola news came out recently, so they're probably going to go for him. So you probably wouldn't get into Liverpool. And then after that, I mean, Chelsea, they've got a couple players in there as well. I think he gets into most teams. I genuinely think Rashford gets into most teams in the Premier League based on ability. However, is Manchester United the right environment for Marcus Rashford? No, I don't think it is. And I think, one, the fan base, and this isn't me trying to blame the fan base, but I think there's a break in the relationship there. And I think it will take a lot for Rashford to win a lot of the fan base back. I'm in so many United group chats. I speak to fans all the time, and we go out to Old Trafford all the time and speak to fans. The fan base isn't necessarily on Rashford's side. And I think for him to win them back, it's going to take a lot. He's going to have to overachieve. He's going to have to overperform. And all it takes is a couple bad games, and all of a sudden it's, a lot of negativity, which I don't think is the right thing for him, and I don't think it's the right thing for the club.
Rodri to Real Madrid went on to the next stage, which obviously then generated a ton of speculation and talks going in. We'll have the update from the Madrid side of things there, as well as local journalists talking